She settles.
Yeah.
And it gets a little bit more specific than that, but for the meantime, just that kind of general approach is fine. And I'll explain the difference.
Okay.
So behavior is easy, in the sense that it's just don't do that.
Right.
And obedience training makes things more complicated because you have to teach the dog to do a skill, right? So most trainers, when they talk about the jumping, they say teach your dog to sit. When your guest comes over, tell your dog to sit. If your dog is sitting, they can jump on the guest. And I understand that logic. Mm-hmm. The problem is though, she likes people. She's very excited.
Yeah.
You tell her to sit. She's so excited she either one doesn't listen, or two, if she does sit, when the guest comes in, she'll jump anyways.
Yeah.
Right, because she's too excited.
Yeah.
So the problem, of course, isn't the jumping, it's the excitement.
Right.
That's doing that.
Right.
So here, instead of having the dog sit, my mother not gonna listen. And with the e-collar, like you could make her listen because we have, again, means of reinforcement. But in the meantime, it's just don't jump. Like I don't care what you do, just don't jump.
Yeah.
Right? And like you said, you had tapped her and she ended up putting herself in a sit anyways.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times when we correct stuff like that, dogs tend to opt for the sitting position.
Yeah.
Especially if it's something that's already been taught to them.
Uh-huh.
Because you're just saying, like, cut that out so the dog goes, okay, instead, I'm going to do this thing that I do know. Mm-hmm. So, in the meantime, because you just said you had one opportunity, right? It's kind of just like a band-aid in the meantime. Mm-hmm. So you're still making progress in the sense that she's learning not to jump. Mm-hmm. Just one thing to keep in mind, of course, is like, if someone on the street says, hey, can I say hi to your dog? And you say, of course. And the assumption is she's not going to jump, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe she doesn't, but then they start talking to her in like a baby voice.
Yeah.
She's probably going to jump, right?
Right.
So you would still correct her.
Yeah.
Technically, it would be like unfair.
Right.
Because the person incited the excitement. But what you're teaching, Jane, is it doesn't matter what their energy is like. You still have to behave yourself and not jump.
Yeah.
Okay? So as part of the process, so in the meantime, it's easiest if the person is calmer. Mm-hmm. We're kind of ignoring her.
Yeah.
We correct her, and then they can calmly pet her.
Yeah.
And then you kind of work towards, all right, now just be normal.
Yeah.
And come in, hi, love.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you're teaching her, even though they're excited energy, you still can't jump.
Right.
So,
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that would be really ideal because there's a family that lives below me with little kids, mm-hmm. and she gets so excited, and they're like, they are excited to see her, but because she has so much excited energy, it's scary for them. Mm-hmm. This was like pre-COVID when we were seeing people. Mm-hmm. So it would be great for her to not have that crazy energy because they want to pet her, but because she's so strong, she jumps on them, they get knocked over and all that. So that would definitely be ideal for once.
Would she be on leash when she were to greet these kids?
Yeah, it would be like I'd run into them coming back from a walk or,
Okay, so what I would do is one, get her good with adults. Yeah. Right, because that you're just layering in the foundation. So then once you bring in the kids, she already has an idea of what to do. Yeah. It's just you're just changing the energy. Yeah. And then this way, if they get excited and she gets excited and you correct her, right away she's gonna go, oh, it's just like with all the other people that I met that I have to keep calm. Yeah. And I have a video that I can send you. I do it more so for touch sensitivity, meaning I have a Rottweiler right now who's like 8-9 months, and he's nervous reactive. So if you just came up to him and tried to pet him, he would jump and bark at you. Yeah. Not because he's aggressive, but just because you just startled him. Okay. But for me, he did that to me the first day when I met him here for the consult. He lunged at me. And then on the second class, I crouched down and he ran up to me, sat on top of me, right? Because I earned his trust. So I showed the lady how to do a controlled exercise. And it's the same kind of approach that you can do as well, at least with kids, to give you more control. Because kids, obviously, they're going to misread or they're going to think if the dog barks and she's barking out of excitement, they think, oh my God, she's barking because she's aggressive.
Yeah, it scares them. Yeah.
So it's a really controlled exercise. And then I can send that to you. You can watch that, and you can use that with you know, your neighbor's kids and then other kids and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Okay. Anything else?
No, I mean, I'm seeing my sister and her family tonight, so there will be more people around to kind of try all this out.
Okay, good. And then if any, like, and whenever you feel like you might need more control, leash. Okay, the leash helps give you control.
Yeah.
Because you limit her range.
Yeah.
Right? So if it's like, oh, like, you know, 5 kids are gonna come over and I don't want her all over the place, right? I could just unlock the door. And what we're gonna cover today actually will help with that as well.
Yeah.
But I step back, come on in, and then I can shorten my leash. So if she does try to go forward, she's only gonna go like, you know, a foot, and I can correct her, and it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
When you give the dog the full leash, they tend to have too many options, and you'll see them kind of going all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So even just shortening that leash and kind of using that reference point of when we're not moving, you're in a sitting position, will help with that. Okay? Questions?
No.
Alrighty, so today, we're going to cover the place command, which is good because this will help you with your guests coming over today. Okay? So, when it comes to people entering the home, number of approaches. One is you let your guest in, if she gets excited and jumps, you just correct her. Okay? The other one would be we have control prior. So if I know at 5:30 I have a guest, at 5 o'clock Jane is already on her dog bed. Okay? So when the guest comes in, if she really respects the command, she cannot leave this to go greet them, so therefore she cannot jump on them. Okay? Now, this does not teach her to not jump, this prevents her from jumping. Okay?
Right.
And the last approach is what I call claiming space. And so earlier I said jumping is not the problem, the excitement is there's an exercise that I teach where we back the dog off of the door that calms them down. So by the time the guest comes in, the dog's not excited anymore, so we're not going to see jumping. Okay? So there's no kind of right or wrong, it's just whatever works in the moment. But this at least gives you another approach. Okay? So with the placemat here, you don't have to have anything like this. You can use a towel, you can use a blanket, a kitchen mat, a dog bed, an ottoman, anything that has a perimeter. Okay? So here, with the place command, the reason why I teach this first is when we're doing stationary control, if you do down, like this would be a down position, right? There's no, nothing else but that you can do. Down means that, right? Sit means this. So place is different. Place is, I don't care what you do, just don't step off. Okay, so she can sit down, she can lay down, she can stand. If someone came to like pet her and she stood up and she was wiggling her tail, that's fine. It just means you cannot step off of the area. Okay? So it's much easier to reinforce and easier to teach to help get the concept of stationary control with the owner and the dog. Okay? So what we're going to do today is we're going to teach what we call the send. The send is simply getting Jane to go from here to there. Okay? So we're going to start about a foot away. And what you're going to do is you're going to come towards the placemat. And you're going to be stationary like this. You're going to shorten your leash a little bit. And what is your number currently at?
15.
15 is fine. And so if you walk towards the placemat and then Jane were to flush forward, we wouldn't allow her to go there on her own. We would actually stop her. Okay? Because sometimes the dogs, when they see it out of curiosity, they'll just jump on. So it doesn't allow us to teach her with the remote. So you're going to stop about a foot away. You're going to wait a moment, and then you're going to start tapping and then pulling to lead Jane to the placemat. Okay? As soon as all 4 paws are on here, we stop the remoting and we see what she does. Again, she can stand, sit, or lay down. I don't care what she does. But if she were to try to jump off, you would then start tapping again and then use your leash to get her to hop back on again.
Okay.
Okay? Questions so far?
Nope.
So go ahead and get Jane positioned here. And you're going to come a bit closer. You'll probably be about a square to 2 squares away.
Okay.
Okay, so pretty close. Like that's good right there, okay? And you're at 15.
Yep.
And you'll go ahead and tap. Tap.
And start pulling her onto it, or just?
Correct. So go ahead and start tapping here. Tap. Tap. Good. This is fine. We're going to wait a moment. So then what you're going to do here is you're going to say, that's fine. I thought she was going to step off. You're going to say break, and you're going to move backwards.
Break.
And give a little tug. There she goes. Good girl. And we're going to repeat that a few more times, okay?
tap when I break?
No, so
Okay.
break means your job is done, so we
Yeah.
don't do anything with the tap. Go ahead here and hit your vibrate function. Okay, just checking that it's on. Go ahead and tap on the bumpy button here, just by itself. Again. Again. We must put a 20. Good, and go ahead and step close. Up a square, 2 squares away. Up right there. Good, wait a moment. Now tap. There we go. Good. I want it to be real obvious to her that the tap is what's getting her to go there and not the leash pull, okay? Because ultimately we're going to build this to where you would just say place and then she would just run there. So if it's really the leash that's doing most of the work, you'll always have to need the leash to guide her there.
Yeah,
okay?
and she has a bed similar to this, and when someone comes in, I do tell her to go to her bed, and then once like they're in the door, I let her out, but then the jumping happens. Like she's like on the bed, off the bed, on the bed, like,
Correct.
you know, so.
And that's what I was mentioning earlier, that this doesn't teach her not to jump, right?
Right.
So this is more so like if you're gonna have a lot of people come over, like let's say you have one guest and she's good with holding, right? But then you add like 4 or 5 more people, then it's like, how is she, the excitement goes too much, right? So what we would do here is kind of blend what you know so far.
Yeah.
And what I would do is, instead of releasing her after your guest is in, let her hold for a bit. Okay, let that excitement kind of just dip down a little bit. Now, let's say 20 minutes goes by and you go, okay, Jane, break. When you do release her, keep your energy passive. Okay, because you're like, okay, Jane, break, right? And you do that, boom, she shoots up into excitement. She's like, finally. And then after that point, if you were to see the craziness, then you would do what you did this past week and correct her for the craziness. Okay, and eventually we should start getting her to just taper down and not need to have to what is the word, correct her so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We're gonna do this a couple more times. Gonna break.
Okay, break.
Good. There we go. Good. And one more.
Break. Just hang on me.
Good. So now what we're going to start doing, same process, but I'm going to have you start moving and sending from different angles. So that you can walk around, you can send her from here, or you can send her from here, or you can be over here and send her from there. We want to send her from different angles because if you always do the same position, what will happen is, like let's say you always send her this way, and then one day you send her this way, is she'll walk around and come that way. Because dogs are all about habit, okay? So we're going to do same distance, about 2 feet back, but you're just going to be sending her from different spots. And then I'm going to have you tap first, and then pull if needed.
Okay.
Okay?
Break. Come here. Is it okay that she's sitting this way?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Because she's not in a heel. We're
Yeah.
just walking loosely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. There we go. Good. So you see right there when she got the tap, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like what's going on, and you tap and you let her. Is when she fully gets it, the tap will just cause her to go without any kind of leash guidance, okay?
Yeah.
One more.
Break.
Right, good.
Break.
Good, 2 more. last one.
Great.
There you go. Good. Take a second there. Good. So now, what we're going to do is I'm going to have you tap about 3 times to see if she'll go on her own, right? Because right now you're tapping, and then you tap and pull. So now we're going to hold off from the pull, and then see if just without any real leash guidance, if the taps alone will send her there. Okay. So you'll do tap, 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 and then if she doesn't do anything, keep tapping and then pull. Okay. And after a few reps, hopefully we see we could tap, and then boom, excuse me, she just starts to go. Okay. Break.
Break.
Good.
Break. Cool.
I think we lost contact there.
Break.
Good. A couple more.
Break.
Right. There. Good. That was better.
Break. Break.
One more. Right. Good. So, on a couple of them, I'm not sure if we had contact. I think the middle 2 there were, and that last one was kind of iffy too. So we're gonna repeat that again, but we're gonna let her just kind of pause for a sec. So you see how like now she's preemptively shooting there, right? Because now she's predicting pressure, right? And so like earlier when you mentioned, when you send her, go to your bed, if there's too much going on, she's like on her bed, off her bed, or jumping or something like that, right? Is because there's no consequence or there's nothing that really makes it mean anything. Okay? So what we're doing is just putting meaning behind it. When we say go to our bed, go to your bed, whatever phrase you're going to use, it means go there and stay there. Okay. Now the other thing is it gives her frame of reference. So like let's say you do tell her go to your bed, and 5 people come over and she's super excited, and you see her just kind of really edgy. Is the energy is contained because she cannot leave the perimeter, right? But you can still control her energy, okay? So then if she's supposed to stay there and she's way too excited and I decide I need you to chill out, right? You can do that tap. In the beginning, what we most likely see is it'll flush her off, okay? That's where the leash comes in. So then I keep tapping and I flush her back on again. So then she has to think like, okay, the tap wasn't for me to get off of the place because it kicked in and didn't go away until I went back on. And then the dog starts to, as we repeat it, associated to their behavior, okay? But in the beginning, when you're trying to be more specific about her, how she's behaving on the bed, it's expected it's going to confuse her and lead her off, okay? So like, let's say she was on her dog bed and she started barking, and you tapped her to stop the barking. She'd probably get confused and flush off. So then you keep promoting until she flushes back on again. And you do that like, usually it's about the 2nd or 3rd time that you'll tap them for something on the bed, and instead of going from being confused and jumping off the bed, you'll see her like if she's in an alert state, you'll tap her, and then she'll stay on the bed but just go into a more relaxed state. Okay, I can't remember if we did this maybe with the whining or something in heel the first class or so.
We didn't do it with the whining, no.
So like technically you can do it there too. Like let's say you're just sitting there and she's crying immediately, because her frame of reference is I'm here next to mom. So if you remote her, I'd expect she's going to get confused. She might flush off. I keep tapping a little bit of leash pressure to guide her back. I don't need it perfect. She sits back down again, 10 minutes goes by, she starts to whine, I tap her, and you'll see her take the tap and just kind of like go into a more resting position. Because she knows tap doesn't mean to leave me. Tap means keep where you're at, but chill out. Okay, so you can communicate with her on a deeper level, but in the beginning, expect it to confuse her. Okay, questions about this so far?
Yeah, no, I mean, should I start doing that? Because she whines a lot, as you can see, when there's, you know, every day at home when it's just being her, nothing's going on, so she's not whining. But like, we get in the car, she's whining. If she knows we're about to go somewhere, she's whining, so.
And I leave it to you. Me personally, I would correct it. Okay, because like, let's say if you take the whining, when people look at dog behavior, they unless it's aggression, they don't think of it as bad.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, we'll say, yeah, the dog's a good dog and they cry every now and then, but they're not aggressive. And I'm like, yeah, but the whining is anxious behavior and it's technically not healthy. Right? But if the owner goes, no, I'm fine with that, I don't need to correct it, then I go, that's fine, like, it's your dog. But if you're in the car and you're like, yeah, that's whining, I don't want it, you would correct it. Okay, now in the car, is she riding the back seat or in the front or anything?
In the back.
Is she tethered to anything?
Yeah.
She is? Okay, cool.
Normally.
Because that makes it easier.
Yeah.
Because if she's not tethered and you tap her, she might think come close. So she's gonna hop in the front seat. Okay, so what I do is, you know, you load her in the car, you get in the car, and if the whining starts before you even start driving, correct it there. Okay, and you might have to like bump the number too, and eventually you might give a yip. The yip doesn't mean physical discomfort. The yip is the brain finally cracking and going, okay. And then typically after that yip, you'll just hear quiet. Okay, and then I start driving because trying to drive and correct the dog at the same time obviously is going to be complicated. But then once you get that into her head, at some point you wouldn't need to correct her. Like she'll just go in and like do this and she'll just chill out. Okay. And then in some cases when the owner puts the dog right in, like the dog will start crying right there. And ideally you want to start the process the moment you hear the whining start. Because if she whines for like a minute before you start correcting her, she'll always whine for that minute. Okay. Other questions?
Nope.
So we'll go ahead and release her, and we're going to try that process again of tapping 3 times. To see if she'll go, because the contact's kind of wonky. Okay?
Great. Does she need to be sitting?
No. There we go. Good.
Great.
Right there. So that's what I'm wanting to see. Okay? So it's much better. Let's try 3 more.
Great. Great.
Right there. Good. Better.
Great.
Good. 2 more. Yep, good. Okay. 1 more.
Great.
That was good. Right, so that was like 2 taps, I think. Right.
Yeah.
So right there, I think that first or second one, tap, boom, she flushed right there. So that's what we're trying to create on a reliable basis. And as soon as I tap, she's not going to question it, she's going to go. The reason why we're getting the whining here is because we're putting pressure on her and we're not giving her much guidance anymore. So she's having to think through it. Okay, so that whining is different from like the whining you would get in the car. Okay, they come from the same place, but what's feeling is a little bit different. Okay, so here, the more I make her think on her own, under pressure, the more kind of confident she becomes, especially, oh, okay, like this isn't anything to be stressed about. This is actually a line of communication. What does it mean? Okay, so questions about this?
I guess my only question is like, eventually, we want to get to a place where I don't need to have her in the collar and I could just say, go to her bed.
Depending on the context, right?
Yeah.
So like, let's say in the home, it's just you and her.
Yeah.
Go to your bed, right? She goes and she's chill, right? But you have to take into account stimuli. So then, like, let's say you have, 10 friends come over. It's gonna be a lot going on.
Right.
You're gonna need your tool, right?
Yeah.
But then after everything dies down and everything's settled, you can remove it. Good, right? We're done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a collar comes in when there's gonna be things that there are more things to contend with or things that you can't account for.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're going to walk with her, or if you take her to the park and she's off leash,
Mm-hmm.
lots of stuff can happen, right? A squirrel can run by, she can start chasing the squirrel. An off-leash dog can be running through, she decides I want to play with that dog, and so she starts chasing the dog and they go running and stuff. I've had that happen to clients
Mm-hmm.
where all the dogs are playing in the group and then one dog decides to like run off and then the dogs go chasing that dog, but then that dog is running towards the street,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they're like a flock, like stuff like that. In the home, because you got 10 guests coming over, 10 different types of energy, and it's not the norm.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
It's easy to control a dog when we're in like the norm.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was like, when you're home alone and stuff, go to your bed, no problem, because there's nothing to compete with.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because then you also have to account for like, maybe there's a few people that have never been to your place before and they don't know about Jane, and they see her and like, oh my god, look at Jane, right? And they start talking to her like that, and she's never met them before, the excitement goes up, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the collar, of course, is again that cop on the collar. If you think you're going to need it, you put it on, and when you think, I'm good, I don't need it right now anymore, you can remove it, okay? And that's usually pretty common in the beginning with the guests coming over.
Yeah.
Is the owner will have the collar on like the first 10 to 15 minutes, and then once the dog, has been corrected for the jumping or winds down or whatever, they remove it and the dog's fine.
Yeah.
Okay? It's just that initial part, and then once that's done, everything kind of just flattens out. If you're gonna be at a restaurant with her, of course, there's gonna be scents, food, the waiter or waitress cooing at her, people walking by. Yeah, right. So then you get so much stuff to contend with.
Yeah.
You want to have that collar on.
Yeah.
But with the collar, as you do this more, it becomes it helps the dog settle, because the dog knows there's options that aren't available to them because they'll be corrected. So then if you go to a restaurant and she goes there and she chills, she's gonna be like, all right, I've been here before. There's no point in whining. There's no point in like begging for attention because blah, 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 right? And then she'll be passive like this. Okay?
Okay.
Other questions?
Nope.
Excuse me, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna have you use your cue. So I think you said you go to your bed.
Yeah.
So what you're gonna do, same process, is you're gonna say go to your bed first. Then you're gonna immediately start tapping. If she doesn't respond by the third tap, you're gonna keep tapping and then pull. Okay, so we have the phrase, 3 taps, if no response, then keep tapping and pull. Okay? And I'll have you go back a little bit, like that distance of 3 squares as a reference point. We're gonna start sending her from a little bit further away as well. Okay? Great.
Great. So say it and then start tapping.
Correct.
Go to your bed.
Right there. Good.
Great.
One more.
Go to your bed.
Good.
Break. Break. Break.
Good.
Go to your bed.
You're at 20, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to 23.
Break. Break. Break.
Yeah. Pull.
Break.
There she goes. Good.
Go to your bed.
Yep, right there. Good. One more.
Break. Go to your bed.
There you go.
I didn't even tap it.
Yeah, I saw when you said it, she immediately started going. We're gonna actually do 3 more.
Okay.
And then we're gonna pause, give her a break, I'll talk about some stuff, and move on to the next thing, okay?
Okay. Break. Go to your bed.
Right.
Break. Go to your bed.
Good. And last one.
Break. Go to your bed.
Good. We're gonna pause right there. Go ahead and you're gonna keep the leash in your hand, but have a seat. Good. All right. So, bumping at just those 3 levels incentivize her more so to respond on that first tap, right? So, here there's 2 aspects to the place command. There's the send, which is what we're covering now, and then there's the don't move. Okay. When you've had her go to her bed, how long do you keep her there for?
Until they take their shoes off and their coat off and get through the door.
Is that the longest she's ever done?
Yeah.
So that's like what, 5 minutes maybe?
Maybe.
Maybe, okay. So this command and any stationary command, sit or down or place or go to your bed, is meant for extended use, okay? Sit, I don't really push like that because for dogs, typically they get uncomfortable sitting, so they most likely will lay down. So down and place command are the ones that if I need the dog to not move for a few hours, these are the commands that I use, okay? So this command is actually meant for extended use. So that's why I was saying if you go to a restaurant, you can bring a towel with you or a little dog bed or whatever, and you sit down, you just pop it down, you go to your bed, she goes there, and while you have brunch or dinner for an hour and a half or whatever, her job is to be there, okay? So it's meant for much longer than the 5 minutes. Let's say you're gonna have, runs over with kids, whatever, and the kids are unsure about the dog or never been around dogs, so they're kind of scared of dogs. For kids, I always tell people having your dog under control helps them feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like, oh, my kids are scared of dogs. Like, what can we do about it? Like, oh, no worries, I'll put her on her bed and she won't move for 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever the time frame is. Okay. So when we're teaching this, we're trying to get the go to your bed phrase to be easy. Go to your bed, boop, right there, right, real easy. Once we get her to that point consistently, then I don't worry about practicing this exercise because she already knows how to go there. The next part of it is the don't move. So what I have people do in the beginning is, like, let's say you're gonna watch TV, or you're working from home, or you're gonna be eating dinner or something like that. Something that you're gonna be doing where you're gonna be stationary for a bit, is you start to incorporate this, okay? So let's say when I watch an hour and a half long movie on Netflix or something, I take the dog bed, this is the couch, pop it right here, go to your bed, she goes, she's on the leash, she's on the e-collar, I can step on the leash, and I just watch TV for an hour and a half, right? 45 minutes later, she gets bored, she tries to get off, I start tapping her, she jumps back on, I go back to watching the movie. 10 minutes later, she tries again, I tap her, she goes back on, right? So what she's learning is, when I say go to your bed, if she tries to preemptively break off, there is an automatic correction. So that's how we start teaching the stay aspect of it. Okay, so I don't say stay, I just say go to your bed. And I create the implied stay simply by correcting her every time she breaks off prematurely. Okay, so we always start close. And then there's phases to this. Okay, so the first week, anytime I place a dog, I'll have the dog next to me, and then I just correct them whenever they try to sneak away. The second week, the dog will be here, and I might get up and like make a sandwich and come back, but they have to stay put. The third week is they're a little bit further away, 4 to 6 feet away, and then the fourth week is the dog will be across the room from me, and I can go in and out of the rooms and vacuum and clean and sweep and mop and all that stuff, and she doesn't move. Okay, so you're gradually building it to a more complicated level, because if you try to start with Jane being over here on place and then you're over here watching TV, if she gets up, you now have to get up and walk all the way over here to correct her. Okay, so what we're doing in the beginning is we're trying to teach Jane, when you feel the remote, it means go back to the bed, right? So we always start close. It's much easier to correct her here. And eventually, as I do that over those few weeks, when I am across the room and I see her thinking about sneaking off and I correct her, I don't have to walk over here. She should be able to self-correct on her own at that time, okay? So everybody's application of the command is gonna be different. Some people only need it for like an hour. Some people need it for a few hours. I had a client whose dog was growling and not getting along with their toddler. So we had that dog do 4 to 6 hours. Because I was like, you need to have so much control of this dog that you don't even worry about what's going to happen because you know your dog's not going to move, right? So on average, people typically do 1 to 2 hours because they usually use this when they go out to a restaurant or something like that, or they're going to be eating or they're going to be watching a movie. It's typically when people use this, so that's like the most common one. So if you know you would like to take it to a restaurant, and it's usually like an hour and a half. In the home, I would practice 2 to 2.5 hours. Okay, in terms of one solid length of time, because when you get to the restaurant, there's going to be things like the waiter and the food and the scents and other dogs potentially and all that stuff, right? Is the difficulty is going to go up because of distractions, and in the home you're not going to have those distractions. So instead, I make it more difficult by doing a longer period of time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So then it's easier for the dog to do an hour, hour and a half, because they can do 2 to 2.5 hours. And you know, when you go to a restaurant or you put her in a setting where there's going to be more distractions, if you've already done a lot of foundation and like she tries to do something and you tap her, it's like she's like, oh, okay, like the same thing applies here. Okay, and the tap right away, she goes, oh, it's going to be the same rules. There's no point in thinking about sneaking off or anything like that. Okay. Questions so far about any of this?
Nope.
It's not mean to have your dog be still for a bit. For a dog like her, it's actually good.
Yeah.
Because that anxiety, that whininess, that like wanting to move, is this helps her counter herself and learn like I can be in a more passive state, right?
Yeah.
So like here, you see how she went up into an alert state,
Yeah.
right? She was laying with her head down. She heard something out on the floor. She perked her head up and she's like kind of like scoping it out, right? To give you an example, you could actually correct that. Okay, it's like let's say you're in the home and she barks when she hears sounds outside the door or sounds like outside the window or whatever, right? And she's on place. And you see her perk up, okay? If you're wanting to kind of push more, just to kind of learn, right there I would tap. And what you're saying is when you're on your bed, nothing else matters. Just chill out and be relaxed, okay? You don't have to wait for her to start barking in order to correct her, okay? So here, give a tap. Yep. Wait. Yep. Wait a moment. Okay. So you did about 4. There was the first one, then the second one, then her anxiety started to go up, right? And then you started tapping because you're putting under pressure, but then eventually she went down to a resting state, right? So expect, she didn't do it here, but expect that she may flush off at home. So the only difference is when you tap her and she flushes off, you would keep tapping her. You would not say, go to your bed again. You would just tap, grab her leash, lead her back. She hops, ideally without the pulling, it's more so just to restrict where she can go. She hops back on. I wait to see what she does. She lays back down, she settles, drop the leash and go back to what I was doing. Okay? But if you see her get into an alert state and you decide, yes, I'm going to disagree with that, that's how it works. Just a tap, tap, and then eventually she starts to, she'll stop and redirect. If you see her tapping her and it's not breaking this mindset, we're too low. But with this activity, I wouldn't go like, 23 to 30 or 28. I'd go 23, 25, 26-ish. Real subtle. Okay, because if you put too much pressure, it's gonna cause her to panic, and she's not gonna like learn the lesson there. So it's more so fine-tuned. And once you get used to it, you kind of just get a feel for it. Okay, so e-collar can be go here, do this, right? But it can also mean like, you know what, I know you're already there, but I don't like the state of mind that you're in. Okay, and it's the same thing with like when your guests come over and we said that she's like a lot of energy. Before you correct, I probably step on the leash or have the leash in my hand already so that when I correct her, if she tries to flush off till I go greet them, you can keep the pressure on and then lead her back and prevent her from actually getting to them until she learns to be like this. Okay? Questions?
No.
In terms of the sending exercise, that 2 to 3 times a day for 2 to 3 minutes,
Okay.
a lesson. Real short, because since it's so redundant, dogs tend to get frustrated.
Yeah.
So I keep that short. When it comes to the duration aspect of it, you could go home right now and have her do 2 hours right off the bat. Okay, because it's not repetitive. It's
Yeah.
just go here and don't move,
Yeah.
right? And then expect in 30 minutes she might want to try to flush off, or maybe she starts to cry. Because she's like, hey, I'm tired of being here. You would correct that.
Yeah.
Okay, you would simply just tap, see what she does. Expect that when you, like here, when you tapped her, she starts to get anxious, is I give a little window. I correct her and she starts to whine. And if you try to correct the whining at that time, because the whining is in response to the e-collar. So if you try to tap the whining, you're going to keep her whining. Okay, so then I give a little window for her to take the correction and let her anxious energy out and then settle. Okay, because I had that happen to a client recently where they just kept promoting the dog and the dog kept escalating because they thought they were correcting the whining, but I told them the whining was in response to the collar, so they have to give the dog a window to decompress. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. You don't have to do 2 hours every day. You know, you do 30 minutes one day and then 45 minutes another day and then 2 hours another day and then 10 minutes the next day. Like, you know, pick and choose when you're going to apply it.
Yeah.
But definitely if you know that extended control is something that you'll need,
Yeah.
figure out what your time frame is and at least 2 to 3 times a week practice up in that range. Okay. The one thing I see with the place command is that it is such a simple command that people tend to blow it off.
Yeah.
Okay, they're like, oh yeah, this I can do this anytime, right? And then they forget about it. Then the spring comes, and it's like, oh, it's summer, and I want to go to a restaurant with my dog. And they take their dog, and they've not practiced it, you know, and they think it's going to be easy, but then it's difficult, and they don't enjoy their meal at the restaurant because they weren't practicing it because it was so easy.
Right.
Okay, so definitely something you want to push on a regular basis, at least once a day. The length of time you can vary, but at least 2 to 3 times a week. Practice in that range that you know you would be needing. It was an hour to 2 hours or whatever. Okay. Other questions?
Nope.
So what we'll do here is go ahead and release her.
Right.
And what we're going to do here is we're going to start adding a little bit of distraction. So you're going to start about the same distance, about 3 squares away. You're going to send her, and then you're going to start moving around. Okay. When you start to walk, she may be inclined to follow you. If she tries to follow you, you're going to stop moving, start tapping, don't say anything, lead her back. Once she's on, let her kind of decompress for a second, and then start your movement again.
Okay.
Okay?
Go to your bed.
Now I'll have you do a full lap around.
Okay.
So you can move it. Yep.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, go ahead and come in, and I'm gonna have you give her a lot of praise. Good girl, good girl.
Good girl. Good job, Jane. Good girl.
And then you'll back away, and then you'll walk around again. Good. And then you'll pause, and then when you're ready, you'll release her, and we'll do that 4 more times.
Break.
Good girl.
Good girl. Go to your bed.
Good.
Praise her again.
Yep.
Good job, Jane. Good girl.
Good. And her standing like that is perfectly fine, right? Because she can sit, stand, or lay down. Go ahead and do a quick walk around. That's okay. Good. Good.
Break.
Good. 3 more.
Jane. Go to your bed.
Good.
Good girl. Good girl. Break.
Good. 2 more.
Oh. Come on.
Right.
Okay.
Good.
Go to your bed. Go to your bed.
Good.
Good job. Good girl. Good girl. Break.
Good. And last one.
Jane, go to your bed.
Good. Go ahead and pause right there. And I'm gonna coach you through this and I'll explain why. Okay, so then go ahead and tap. 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 You're at 23.
Yeah.
Let's go 27. Tap. 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 Right there. Okay. So, that's not a down command.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do we do here?
Told her to relax.
To relax, correct, right? So the reason why I had to do that is, again, I don't care, sit, stand, lay down,
Mhm.
right? She can even be on her back, chewing on a bone or playing on a toy, I don't care. But in the setting of go to your bed and guests are coming in, that energy is up, okay? Is you can force the relaxation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So her frame of reference is when I tap, you go here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if the dog has a really good concept, when you tap him again, it should push him into a more relaxed
Mhm.
mindset. Okay, so if all those guests come in and she's just off the wall, first thing you do is either grab the leash or step on it. Okay, so you limit range of motion, and with no words, you just tapped.
Mhm.
Okay, and it was a real slow tap. So when you sent her there and she was standing, she was still in a alert state.
Mhm.
Okay, not because of anything up there, but just because it was fresh to her. Had we left her alone, I'm sure she would have just laid down on her own, right? But if you want to speed up that process, or just learn, or teach her to learn, like, hey, you can be like this when people come over,
Mm-hmm.
that's how we approach it, okay? So the difference between the two of down and just putting her in a more relaxed state is with the down really doesn't have anything to do with relaxation. So she could be in a down position and alert,
Yeah.
right? Which we saw earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Down is mechanical or physical control, but the brain can still be elsewhere. Okay? Same thing with place, right? I was like, you send her to place and not teach her that jump, right?
Mhm.
This is physical control. But you can talk more in depth with her by adding a little bit more pressure and saying, okay, great, thanks for going there, but I need a bit more from you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you just tap, no instruction, and eventually you should just settle her. So she could get up from this. She could sit up and move and reposition and stand up and stuff, because she's not in the down. She's still in place. You just told her to relax.
Mm-hmm.
If we did a down would simply be do this, but you can't do anything else.
Mhm.
But she could still be in an alert state.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the difference between the obedience and behavior part of it,
Yeah.
and just knowing those two things, because people tend to get confused.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you do apply this at home and you feel like, yeah, your energy is a bit much, the place is her frame of reference, and then you're just saying, I need more from you, okay? Expect that you probably get a bit whiny or vocal
Mhm.
because there's something else going on, and her brain's not wanting to relax.
Yeah.
She's wanting the interaction, she's wanting the excitement, she's wanting the outlet of jumping. So when you start to tap her to counter her, you're going to get a little bit of low-level protest, most likely with whining, and then you'll just have to play with the number until eventually she can settle. Okay? And very important when we do this in that kind of context is you do give that window between the taps. Because if you keep that pressure on too quick, it's going to escalate her. Okay, so the rhythm I did was tap, 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 so real slow. Okay, and then once you see her shift, and you might see that where she's like kind of whining and like scooting back and like kind of like this, is because she doesn't want to detach.
Yeah.
Okay, questions about any of this?
No.
Let me think here. So we have when you go home, don't expect this to just transfer to your object.
Sure.
Okay, so I know you've been using go to your bed with one already. So her frame of reference for that is going to be what it was prior, right? There's no pressure behind it. So when you go home, you'll want to take that object and practice a few of the sends. And I would suggest you start first with no words and tap. And she most likely assume to go there. Do that a few times. Once you feel like she's got a good concept, about 3 to 5 reps, then start going, go to your bed.
Okay.
Tap, okay? So that you transfer the discipline component from here to that as well. If you're gonna bring in a new object, like a towel or something that you wanna use for when you go out to restaurants, you're gonna wanna teach that as its own thing as well. Okay, so anytime you bring out a new object to use for her as a go to your bed command, you have to teach it first. Okay, don't assume that if you said go to your bed and you point to like, a chair, she's gonna just transfer that command to that object.
Right.
Okay? Questions?
Nope.
Good.
Yeah.
So that's the place command, or go to your bed.
Yeah.
So the sending aspect of it, 3 to 5 minutes, 2 to 3 times a day. Once you feel like she's got the concept, you don't have to practice this anymore. You just go to application. Application or applied dog training is the most important dog training. Most people do the training sessions and then hope it transfers to life. And I go, no, once you've taught the command, start applying it to life right away. So the dog goes, oh, when guests come over, when you're eating dinner, when you're watching TV, when we go to our friend's house, we go to a relative's house, we go to the park, we go to the restaurant.
Yeah.
Like these commands mean something in any one of those contexts.
Yeah.
Okay? Very good.
A little hard to apply some of those now.
I know, yeah, right, because you can't really go anywhere.
But I go to my sister's every week, so that will be.
Yeah, it's a good place to practice. Yeah. And what I would suggest is, like, let's say you go to your sister's, is I wouldn't always use, don't always put her bed in the same spot, because it'll give her too strong of a reference point. So I would change where you place it every time you go. So it's more so the command itself that she's going, oh, when mom says go to your bed, it means don't move.
Yeah.
Okay, because dogs, if you always use the same spot, it's kind of it helps them too much. Yeah. And I like to make these as difficult as possible so that it's more reliable. Okay, so little things like that will help.
All right.
Anything else?
Nope.
All right, good job.
All right, thank you. Great. Good job, Jane. Hard work.